Alright, so in my last video, there was something funky going on with the orientation. So I'm going to go back through this active reading that I did in the last video with hopefully the orientation set up better. So we left off talking about how Montag is being compared in this allusion to Icarus, because like Icarus in the story of Icarus and Daedalus from Greek mythology, Montag is trying to escape the imprisonment of his society. He's trying to escape from Beatty and from others who want to keep him from truth and knowledge. And also, like Icarus, it doesn't go so well, right? In the story, Icarus flies too close to the sun, burns his wings, and dies. Montag here, seeking freedom, goes too far, too fast. He gets caught, and now he's going to have to burn his house. And while Montag is confronting this truth, he looks at Clarice's house, and Beatty starts to disparage her, really talking down on her. Montag responds, "She saw everything. She didn't do anything to anyone. She just let them alone." So again, we're reminded here of Clarice's name and the root of it, Claire, meaning clarity or to be clear. So Clarice, what's special about her is she observes, she notices, she's curious, she questions, she sees things for what they are. And because she saw things for what they were, she gets Montag to start thinking and seeing things clearly and truly. And Beatty's response to this is very negative, right? He doesn't want people to see things clearly. He doesn't want people to question, because when you start to question, it's harder to control. Alone. Hell, she chewed around you, didn't she? One of those damn do-gooders with their shocked, holier-than-thou silences. Their one talent, making others feel guilty. God damn, they rise like the midnight sun to sweat you in your bed. The front door opened. Mildred came down the steps running, one suitcase held under her hand with a dreamlike clenching rigidity in her fist as a beetle taxi hissed to the curb. "Mildred!" She ran past with her body stiff, her face floured with powder, her mouth gone without lipstick. "Mildred, you didn't put in the alarm!" She shoved the valise in the waiting beetle, climbed in, and sat mumbling, poor family, oh, everything gone now." So Montag sees his wife Mildred fleeing from the house, and it's obviously very sudden. Her face is floured with powder, her mouth is gone, she didn't even have time to put on her lipstick. And Montag says, "You didn't put in the alarm," right? His own wife has turned him in here. And as she is leaving, her only response, she doesn't even look at him, she doesn't even say goodbye to him. Her response is, poor family, oh, everything gone." And the sad part here is she's not talking about Montag here. She's not talking about her real family here. She's talking about her TV family. Remember, back in part 1 and part 2, she often calls the characters in the television her uncles and aunts, her family. And so we're reminded again how much of this society is a false reality. She's not worried about her husband, the real people in her household. She's more worried about the TV, because to her, the characters in her TV are closer to her, more important to her than the actual people in her family. And again, we're reminded how superficial she is. What she really cares about is not her husband and the loss of this relationship, but the stuff, everything gone. So again, we see that there are no real, authentic relationships in this society. And this is emphasized by the next passage. "There was a crash like the falling parts of a dream, fashioned out of warped glass mirrors and crystal prisms. Montag drifted about, as if still another incomprehensible storm had turned him, to see stonemen in black wielding axes, shattering window panes to provide cross-ventilation." So Bradbury uses this great simile here. He says that there's a crash like the falling parts of a dream, fashioned out of warped glass mirrors and crystal prisms. So he's comparing the breaking of the house windows by stonemen in black to the breaking of a dream made out of warped glass. And this is really fitting because, again, Bradbury's been playing with this concept of these characters living in a false reality. And dreams, as we know, are a false reality. When you're dreaming, you think it's real, but it's not. It's false. And it's not just a dream. It's a dream fashioned out of warped glass. So So when we think warped, we think something distorted, right? We're reminded here of the carnival that Bradbury starts part 3 with. When you go to a carnival or a fun house, we often see those fun house mirrors with the wavy glass that makes your top half look really long and your bottom half look really short, or some other kind of funky mirrors that make you look different. They're warped mirrors that create a distorted image. So Montag's life was distorted. It was this false reality, and now it's all falling to pieces. As they're breaking this house, they're also destroying the false reality that he's lived in for so long. The brush of a dead head moth against a cold black screen. Montag, this is Faber. Do you hear me? What is happening? This is happening to me, said Montag. What a dreadful surprise, said Beatty, for everyone nowadays knows, absolutely certain, that nothing will ever happen to me. Others die, I go on. There are no consequences and no responsibilities, except that there are. Now let's not talk about them, eh? By the time the consequences catch up with you, it's too late, isn't it, Montag? Montag, can you get away? Run, asked Faber. So we see here two characters being placed side by side. And Bradbury is doing this to create a foil. And the foil, again, is two characters who contradict, who are placed side by side. And the two contradicting characters are Beatty and Faber. So Beatty is the one who's trying to trap Montag, trying to keep him in this false reality, the fire chief, the one who censors and is harmful. On the other hand, we have Faber, who is this free thinker, this retired professor, someone who's trying to bring Montag to deeper truths and teach him and free him from the imprisonment. Montag walked, but did not feel his feet touch the cement and then the night grass. Beatty flicked his igniter nearby, and the small orange flame drew his fascinated gaze. What is there about fire that's so lovely? No matter what age we are, what draws us to it? Beatty blew out the flame and lit it again. It's perpetual motion, the thing man wanted to invent, but never did. Or almost perpetual motion. If you let it go on, it'd burn our lifetimes out. What is fire? It's a mystery. Scientists give us gobbledygook about friction and molecules, but they don't really know. Its real beauty is that it destroys responsibility and consequences. The problem gets too burdensome, then into the furnace with it. Now, Montag, you're a burden, and fire will lift you off my shoulders. Clean, quick, sure, nothing to rot later. Antibiotic, aesthetic, practical. The way Beatty talks and the way he's been acting throughout this entire text, let's talk about him. So let's review who Beatty is. So I'm going to be going over these notes right here. So Beatty, as a reminder, a couple of his key traits. He is the captain, the chief of the firemen. He's also someone who knows the true history of book burning. He, as we can tell from part 2, knows what's really going on in the society and that it's a false reality. And we can also tell from some of the references and statements that he makes that he's very well read, that he actually knows all of these books that he's burning. He quotes numerous different texts. Back in part 2, when the woman who's the martyr burns herself with her books, he recognizes her reference to Latimer and Ridley. So he's a bit of an enigma. He's a very interesting character, someone who knows truth, someone who understands these books and clearly has and maybe still does read them, and yet is perpetuating this society of extreme censorship and false realities. And in a lot of ways, Bradbury creates this character of Beatty as a metaphor for McCarthy in American history with the Red Scare. And just like McCarthy, Beatty in the text is a demagogue. So remember, a demagogue is a leader who appeals to desires and prejudices of the common people in order to gain power. So let's talk about how Beatty does this. These two main traits here, desire and prejudice. So desire, all right, so we're going over here now. What are the desires in this society? Well, they want to be superficially happy. Remember back in part 2, as Beatty's trying to bring Montag back into the fold, he says, we're the happiness boys, right? Our job is to keep people happy. And according to Beatty, books make people unhappy, right? They desire to be happy. They desire to never have any trouble or worry. And books are something that can make you feel uncomfortable. They can make you feel dumb. They can make you aware of discomforting and disturbing truths. And so Beatty uses this, people's desire to be superficially happy, to be instantly gratified, and to have everything be easy, to gain power in the society. He also uses the people's prejudices. They're prejudiced against books. He uses their fear of reading and books, and their fear that reading and books will make them unhappy, will make things difficult for them, to maintain his power in this society.